Hey, this is Rue, and today I'm reviewing World War II Rebuilder after 100%. This is a simulation title in the same vein as PowerWash Sim or House Flipper that has you cleaning up debris, demolishing ruined buildings, and building shiny new ones in their place. This one's a little bit frustrating for me because I really wanted to like it, but a lot of the times the game just can't get out of its own way. As usual with these reviews, I'm going to go over how the game plays, talk about what I liked, what I didn't like, and close with a discussion of value and overall thoughts. Whenever possible, I like to review games after 100%. This includes all available levels and achievements. In this case, getting to 100% took about 15 hours. Let's get into how the game plays. You play across a series of 10 levels set in the UK, France, and Germany shortly after the end of World War II. Each level is a bombed out part of a city or town, and you're tasked with clearing debris, repairing damage, dismantling leftover tanks and emplacements, and overall bringing things back to a new and prosperous state. Each level can take around 45 minutes to an hour to complete, depending on how quickly you work and if you try to complete optional objectives. You have a variety of tools and mini-games that you'll use. A hammer to break up large chunks of debris, a cutting torch to take apart metal objects, a shovel to pick up loose items, a brush to clean dirty objects, and a paint roller and spatula to paint and mortar respectively. The game has 4 basic resources: wood, rubble, metal, and brick. You can only carry so much of each resource, so you'll need to periodically drop off resources into these bins. Most repairs or new buildings will require some combination of resources. You also have access to a workbench that lets you craft special components that you'll occasionally need. You can press Control to highlight world objects you can interact with, which can be very helpful. As you complete locations, you'll get upgrade points that you can put into a perk tree. None of these will fundamentally change how you play the game, but there are a few nice convenience upgrades: increased carrying capacity, walk speed, and so on. Some of the levels give you access to vehicles, including a crane, a bulldozer, or a jeep. These can be used to move other vehicles and objects, or destroy ruined buildings faster than by hand using the hammer. Depending on what you're trying to do, you may get a number of different mini-games: defusing bombs, hammering nails, using a wrench to remove bolts, and so on. Once enough debris has been removed, you'll see the outlines of the repairs or new build you can make in its place. On very large sites, you can interact with a construction sign to choose between a few different options. Objectives are somewhat confusingly broken into 3 tiers. There are main tasks that you have to do to complete the level, and then 2 tiers of optional objectives: side tasks and extra tasks. The extra tasks include decorating the level with different types of cosmetic items. Each level also has a number of hidden collectibles. Level ratings are done on a star basis. To get a perfect 5-star rating, you'll need to complete all the tasks in each category as well as find all the collectibles. If you've played any of the other games in this genre, House Flipper, PowerWash Sim, or more recently Crime Scene Cleaner, the gameplay loop in World War II Rebuilder will be immediately familiar. World War II Rebuilder tries to add a few twists of its own: fetch quests, minigame variety, but for the most part these don't work, which we'll get to later. Let's move on to the things I liked about World War II Rebuilder. First, the setting is great and one of the things that first drew me to this game. What better time to place a game about cleaning and repairing and rebuilding than after the most destructive conflict in human history? It's also a refreshing change of pace. There have been a ton of games set in World War II, but usually you're the one dropping the bombs and blowing up buildings and so on. World War II Rebuilder turns that on its head, which is refreshing. When everything is working and the game is at its best, the gameplay can be fun. I like this genre and I like history, so in a sense the game was made to order. Some of the later levels, like Remagen, have you rebuilding a bridge from scratch, clearing off rubble, cutting mangled steel spans, and then building new ones and adding pavement and bricks. This is fun. Overall, transforming wrecked landscapes and cities can be satisfying. Once you complete each level, the game gives you an aerial flyby comparing before and after, which is well done. I also like the music. It's not a huge thing, but it sounded good and felt appropriate to the setting. Let's get into the things I didn't like. Unfortunately, there's a lot here as this game has a lot of problems. Let's start with technical issues and a serious lack of polish. Despite being out for almost 2 years, most of the time the game feels like a beta or very rough early access title. It's common to get stuck or have a vehicle get stuck, so common that the devs actually included unstuck and respawn vehicle buttons in the main menu. I used these on multiple occasions. Game performance is not great for looking as basic as it does, and if you try to alt-tab during game load, you'll get a guaranteed crash. Objects, including ones required for side tasks and achievements, can end up stuck beneath terrain. The solution is to just pan your shovel around like a madman while holding down the mouse button and hoping you get lucky. Watch my inventory here. I need to pick up this sign to finish the level, but it's stuck underground. Achievements are buggy and often require leaving and reloading a level or removing and adding an object. The physics engine is kind of a joke. Nothing feels like it has real weight at all. You can pull a tugboat out of the water and across an entire beach with an old beat-up Jeep. Not only that, the boat will bounce around like it's an inflatable full of helium. When dismantling objects, they'll often just sort of launch up into the air. For some reason, as soon as the player character touches water, they sink like a rock. You're also unable to crouch, even though being able to do so would be helpful at multiple points. The lack of polish also extends to typos and grammatical errors. Detached trailer is misspelled, and you see this on multiple different levels. Look at how mangled this task description is. The level name even has underscores in the top left. One of the achievements is misspelled. I realize this game was made by a Polish studio, so some localization issues are to be expected, and if this had just been released, I'd give it more grace, but it's been almost 2 years. How is this stuff still not fixed? I also disagree with a lot of the decisions made during game design. This can range from small stuff, such as being able to lock yourself out of collectibles as you progress through a level, to core design decisions, such as level design and UI. The game forces you into this clunky radial menu, but you rarely even use half the tools. 90% of the time or more, you'll be alternating between the hammer and shovel. Every once in a while, you use the cutting torch. The remaining 3 tools, brush, paint roller, and spatula, hardly ever get used. Side note, I'm not sure if this is a Polish translation issue, but I'm not aware of anywhere in the English-speaking world that this is called a spatula. Maybe these terms have changed in the last 80 years, but in the US we'd call this a trowel. In any event, tool names are the least of the issues here. I don't even know why it's necessary to have individual resources on the radial menu. If you have the resources in stock, let us apply them to builds without having to switch back and forth. A lot of the minigames aren't even fun, and one in particular, the wrench turning one, feels janky. You have to have the nut in the dead center of the wrench or it won't turn. Look at the depth of this nail hammering minigame. Is this fun? More broadly, most of the levels suffer from a quantity over quality problem. The maps are big, but they're mostly empty. This is particularly noticeable after you clear out the debris and see huge swaths of open space. You can fill this out to some extent with the decoration system, but it sort of feels like the devs are just handing off responsibility to the player. Here you go, make this empty area look good. In general, I didn't find the decoration system to be very fun. There's no snap to grid, so objects are always slightly misaligned, and I'm just not creative enough to fill out these blank spaces at any kind of high level. Game pacing is also weird. The player character can clear areas way too fast, particularly after getting some upgrades. If you have bins nearby, an entire square of bombed out rubble and debris can be cleared in less than a minute. If you have the resources, you can construct a huge building in seconds. Brick walls are a good example of the inconsistency in this game. At several points, you're asked to build a small wall with bricks, one at a time. At other points, you build much larger brick walls with just one click. This is a tricky line to balance. Make something too slow and it can turn into a frustrating chore, but make something too fast and too easy and you can lose the sense of satisfaction. Better games in this genre, PowerWash Sim and Crime Scene Cleaner, focus on quality over quantity, at least in their better levels. A smaller level with lots of detail and character will always win out over a huge level that feels empty and lifeless. World War II Rebuilder would have done well to shrink the levels, focus on quality and detail, and slow down the pacing. Make it slower to clear debris, make building more involved, require the use of the trowel and painter during and after building. In 15 hours, I think I used the trowel once or twice. For some reason, World War II Rebuilder also includes fetch quests. These quests have the complexity of a 1990s MMO quest. You want to use my tractor? Get these seeds. You got my seeds? Go plant and harvest them, etc. Fetch quests are totally unnecessary in this genre. Between the huge levels, unnecessary minigames, fetch quests, technical issues, and overall lack of polish, it feels like this game was trying to do way too much and ended up not really doing anything particularly well. This really hurts replayability. I like this genre, but when I want to get my fix of cleaning and repairing, I'm going to play PowerWash Sim or Crime Scene Cleaner. Those are just smoother and more fun experiences. I don't think I'm alone either. Steam is showing extremely low ongoing player counts for World War II Rebuilder. Compare this to PowerWash Sim or House Flipper. The game's post-launch support has been a mixed bag. To their credit, the devs released a free DLC map in October of 2023, Remagen, actually one of the better maps. They also released some additional cosmetic decoration items in February of 2024. However, this just feels like more of the same. Instead of focusing on fixing what they have, the devs just release more stuff. There have been no major updates since February besides a console launch in May of 2024. I only played the PC version on Steam, so I have no idea if the console versions are any better. Hopefully they are. With the lack of word since February and the player count being what it is, I suspect the devs may have moved on to other titles and left the game as it is. Let's talk a little bit about value. World War II Rebuilder currently retails for $20 US. Even as a fan of this genre, I would have to recommend passing at that price. On sale, you can get it around $10, which puts it in the buy but be ready to possibly refund category for me. It does have a demo which you can download to see if the game's issues are deal breakers for you or not. I know I've been very critical, but overall this isn't a horrible game. There's some fun to be had if you can fight your way through the jank and bizarre design decisions. If Steam reviews are anything to go by, I may be the outlier. Right now the game is sitting at 87% positive, which is honestly really surprising. Maybe the jank bothers me more than most, or people just really love the World War II setting. I'm not sure. Overall, if I had to sum up World War II Rebuilder, it would be wasted potential. This could have been a great game, but a series of strange decisions and technical issues and lack of polish have left it as just a mediocre one. If you've played it, let me know in the comments what your experience was. I think I'm in the minority on this one, but that's okay. I'd love to hear other opinions. Anyways, that about wraps this one up. If you enjoy this sort of content, feel free to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.